What is up? Welcome to another episode of All Over Voiceover with Kiff VH. I'm Kiff VH, your host, and with me in studio, the lovely, the talented, the inimitable.
I don't know what that means.
Is that
I'm not sure.
I think it means inimitatable, that you can't be imitated.
Oh, I think you can, though.
I think
Pretty much for me, anyway.
I've been trying to imitate you for a lot. Paul Rugg is in the house.
Hi, Kiff!
Hi, Paul.
VH.
Thanks for coming.
I like the VH thing.
It's easier to pronounce than Vanden Heuvel.
I know,
VH.
trust me. I practiced on the drive over. Nice to see you again, Kiff.
Did you ever go by Paul R?
No.
Mics are a little bit loud. I'll take the volume down. There they are. Mics, how's that? Is that better? The mics are a little bit less
better.
loud.
That's fine.
That's good.
Yeah, no, I never did. It's always been Paul Rugg.
Just Paul Rugg?
As depressing as that sounds, because everyone would be like, how do you pronounce that, Rugg? And I go, no, pretty much it's Rugg. Really, you should change it to Rugg, because Rugg is pretty crappy. So, yeah, I don't know why.
Is it the two G's throw people off?
No.
Or it just seems like it's too simple.
No, yeah, it's just like, oh, how do you pronounce that? Rugaga, Rugaga. And it's like, oh, it's Rugg. And they're like, oh, so yeah, my entire childhood was kids. Isn't that funny? Last name.
Kids.
Hey, Paul, how's the carpet? Anyway.
Where are you from originally? Are you from here?
I was born in Van Nuys.
Uh-huh.
I'm like one of the only people.
You're the only person from Van Nuys
that I know.
That you know of.
Well, I think Robert Redford's from Van Nuys, too.
Robert Redford, too.
Yeah. And then I grew up in Vegas.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, we moved there when I was 6 and I lived at the Sands Hotel, which is no longer there. I lived there for like a year and a half.
What led to you living at the Sands?
My dad worked for Howard Hughes at Hughes Aircraft Company. And then when Hughes moved to Vegas, my dad was one of the guys that was transferred there. So they didn't, I don't know. Either there wasn't one house in all of Las Vegas for us to live in, which I kind of doubt, or they just thought we would live so I lived at the Sands for a year and a half in the, we had this like suite where it was like, sort of like Embassy Suites now. It's like a room in the middle and two rooms on either side. And it was awesome.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
I believe it. That had to be an amazing time to be in Vegas.
I was only 7.
Uh-huh.
But I hung around the pool, and then they sort of gave me a job. Let's give Mr. Rugg's kid a job.
Right.
So I gave the towels to Ed Sullivan. I know, it's pretty cool. I saw Sammy Davis Jr. once, and he was so small that it was almost nauseating. It was almost like, because he had a huge head and a little tiny body, and I was like, ah! But now that I'm older, I think I could handle it. But when you're young, you see him on TV, and then he's like, wow, he's really kind of strange looking.
I remember laughing in church. My dad took me to Vesper service at our church, and I was thinking about how small Prince and Sylvester Stallone were, and it made me laugh. I was just sitting there laughing. He's like, "Stop laughing," and it made it worse. Yeah. That sometimes when especially as a kid, that when someone who's larger than life is actually.
Yeah, no, it sort of blindsided me because and then I'm like, wow. And so the Rat Pack was always sort of around, and that was pretty cool. I loved that. I loved living there.
What did you have interest early on in life to go into this type of work? Was that something that was there, or did that come to you later? Not necessarily when you were handing out towels to Ed Sullivan, going, "I'd really like to be on your show.
I'd like to be on your show.
I'd like to be on your really big shoe.
I can balance towels really well, Mr. No, you know what? It's funny. I never even. I always liked doing crazy stuff, but I never thought it would go anywhere. So I actually majored in. Which is the dumbest thing in the world. I majored in writing at Loyola, which is it's just a ridiculous idea. But
is that when you came back to Los Angeles? Or
I went to when I graduated high school. I went to UNLV for 2 years. Go Rebels! And then I transferred to LMU to major in I don't know, something. Hey, Dad, can I go to Marina del Rey to a school? Yeah. Oh, all right. What will you do there? Oh, learn communications.
So you want to study something that you can do on your own?
Yeah. So I went there, and And then just sort of blah blah blah, did stuff, and I only never really started performing until I joined an improv group.
Really?
Yeah, which is when I was like 25. I had never done it or anything.
What brought you into the improv group?
Two friends of mine were like, "You really got to do improv," and I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know, that sounds scary." And they literally said we're going to dinner, and they said, "There, go audition," and it was right there. So
wow,
I owe them big time.
No doubt.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, it was great. And then I was with an improv group called the Acme Comedy Players with John McCann, Adam Carolla, and we did a ton of stuff. And that's where I think we wrote sketches, sort of like you did at Second City. And
sure.
Stuff. We were the poor man's Groundlings. But it was great. I mean,
you guys did it on your own, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's something about that that's like you're not working under someone's. Now these are the rules that you need to follow. You get to create it.
Yeah. And performing to, literally, sometimes in the audience was Adam's grandparents, 2 people. But you know what? We're still going to give them a show, and we would do it. And I learned more from that experience about what an audience. There's theoretical what an audience will laugh at. A lot of writers will say, "Well, this is a funny line here," but until you put it up, you don't know what anybody's going to laugh at.
Absolutely right.
So I would say that was really great to learn. Oh, this is what an audience is going to laugh at. So.
There's something about those small houses, too. When I was in Cleveland, after Second City had closed there were a few of us who still got together and performed in this little club called Bossa Vida in Lakewood, which was adjacent to Cleveland, and it was literally a house of probably 8 to 10 people. And I did my best work in my life in that little space.
I know I totally agree. It's like, oh man, I wish I could have recorded that or bottled that. Cause you're playing for 2 people and I did the most brilliant improv. But anyway.
It's like that, the image in my head is like those little ticks on the wall of when you're growing. You know what I mean? From when you're 6 and then your 7th birthday and your 9th birthday and now you're 13 and how did that happen? Well, during those 8 years or whatever, my math is wrong, but during that time is when you're doing the most growth. Yeah. And that was what was happening in that space for us, and it sounds like for you guys as well.
Yeah. I mean, you'd make props, you'd find costumes. I was broke. My wife luckily she was working. She was a social worker, and I would, and this is terrible, but I would sort of take the money that we're making and be like, well, I have a new sketch I'm trying out tonight, so I really need that fur marmot outfit that I need to put on. And she'd be like, okay, you know what I mean? And just so sweet and trying real hard, but just wondering probably why she married me.
I run into that often.
Yeah, right.
Where you're taking that risk of investing your time, your sweat equity, your financial resources into making something that you think maybe, hopefully, will make you better.
Yeah, although I'm so sort of dumb that I never actually saw the end result, meaning that was I just wanted to go do that.
Yeah.
I want to just do that. And I never thought I really never thought about, well, then, casting director Bill Klankman will come and he'll see me for that part. That never entered my head ever, because if it had, I would have just been nervous and sweating and because sort of like the way I've lived my life. I don't know, just never think about that.
I think that's a better way to go. Truthfully,
it's true. True. You're sort of not in control, but
that's true.
Yeah.
But you set yourself free to create and to be in many respects, sort of reach your limitless creative potential by not putting those restrictions on yourself, or not even necessarily restrictions, but the fear or the stakes. It changes everything about how you pursue your work.
It's like a callback.
Yeah.
Callbacks are horrible.
Yeah.
Because you're like, well, I just don't want to go because there's too much pressure.
Right.
Can I do it from home? Or can you just tell me what you liked and then cast me and I'll do that? But don't make me come and be judged.
Right.
Yeah. I don't want to be. So yeah.
I was so free when I created the original thing.
But now you're asking me to say, do it this way, and you guys are full of nothing. I'm not just, can we just agree that I get it?
Right.
But surprisingly, it doesn't work that way.
Surprisingly, it
I know,
doesn't.
and I don't know why. I keep telling them it should work that way.
I'm going to put a bookmark because I want to come back to that in terms of how do you manage that moment?
Terribly.
Yeah, well,
Terribly.
but you powered through. You made it through.
I powered through.
I mean, so you're at Acme with the guys and using your wife's marmot.
And using the money and just writing sketches, which was I never thought I would do that, and like honing sketches and writing them and putting them up and coming up with characters that come with that, and that was just a lot of fun. And then from that, Sherry Stoner, who was story editor on Tiny Toons, she became story, and her husband was sort of our director at Acme. So when they were looking for writers for a new show called Animaniacs, they were like, well, they gave me a script right at the very beginning before it was really even a show, and then based on that script, they gave me and another guy, John McCann, who was also in the Acme Theater. They gave us scripts, and then based on that, the next thing I know, I'm writing on Animaniacs, which was like, and I didn't know any better, and I'm like, well, sure, is it I'll do that. That sounds pretty fun. And it was a blast.
I mean, that show from an animation standpoint, being someone who value programmed on that time of what Tiny Toons was doing was great, but Animaniacs did what I think is an animation and a Tex Avery fan.
Yeah.
Took things to a whole nother level in terms of exploding the idea of what could be done with animation again.
Yeah, and it was freeing, and and I tell this story often, probably too much, but these days the shows aren't done like that anymore. There are 20 people behind a door somewhere that read scripts, and line 3 here we think could be a different line.
Yes, and I also think that line 4 should support whatever the new line would be.
Right. And what is his arc? And when I started with Animaniacs, there was our executive producer Tom Ruger, and our executive producer Steven Spielberg, and that was it. I mean, that was it. If they didn't like it, well, you probably should go back. But other than that, there was no we'd all write in our rooms and just have a great time, and it just, oh my gosh, it doesn't work like that anymore.
How many writers were on the show originally?
There were 7 of us.
Wow.
There were 7 of us. And everybody sort of had their specialty. There were, people that would only do the Warners, Yakka Wacko and Dot, or not only, but it's like there was Peter Hastings was Pinky and the Brain, who also wrote some of the funniest Yakka Wacko Dot ones, and Deanne Oliver, she liked writing called The Good Feathers. Which
remember The Good Feathers? Yeah.
So and John McCann, was the Yakka Wacko Dot, and you wouldn't these days, Kiff,
yes.
if you are in a company and you are going to write an episode, well, first you write this outline, the premise, which is 3 sentences of whatever. And then if they approve that, then you go to an outline, which is maybe a paragraph. And then after that, if they approve it, then you do an expanded outline. It's all this stuff.
It just seems so.
And then you write the script. And back in the day, it would just be like, all right, Kiff, what do you want to write?
I got a sketch idea for Pinky and the Brain.
Bring it in.
Great.
Bring it in 2.5 weeks.
2.5 weeks?
Or no, well, mine were always 2.5 weeks because I would always panic, and they'd go, we really need that tomorrow. No, it would be like a week, 7 days. Come back in 7 days.
And you're looking at, what, like a 6-page script, 7,
No,
12?
it was, let me see. Back then it was like, we did 6 minutes, so it was about 12 pages.
Okay.
13 pages.
A lot of action, less dialogue, so the ratio's a little bit more in terms of like,
well,
this and this and this.
Yeah. Well, with the Yakka Wakka Da, there was a lot of dialogue too, because they were like the Marx brothers. So you would write a bunch of stuff, but and then you'd write it and then go, yeah, it was all right, or I had maybe think about this, but it was never like picking it apart. It was just, and it was just like, oh, okay, great. It was great. It was. Have I made that clear?
How great it was?
Great.
It was great.
It was wonderful.
Is that where you started doing voiceover as well?
Yeah, I never thought of doing voiceover, and I wrote one once where the Yakka Wakka Da meet Einstein. And Tom Ruger, who had come to see me at the Acme show, said, "You do it. And I was like, well, what do you mean do it? How's that work? Well, we'll put you in the studio, you all sit around and you'll do Einstein. Well, will there be other people there to watch me? Yeah, we're all going to be. Oh, I don't think that's a good idea. No, you can do it. So it's like Frank Welker and all these, like Rob Paulson, Tress McNeil, Maurice LaMarche, all these guys, and just getting me to say the first line was like, I thought I was going to faint. You know what I mean? I'm like, here comes my line. I don't want to do it. I don't want to. Hello, how are you? Focus on someone else for a moment. You know what I mean? It was just like, here comes my line again. Oh, they're all going to look at me. Yes, I think so. I mean, and it was just like so nerve-wracking, but it was fun.
Yeah.
But my job was to also, as one of the writers, I would go to the sessions and I would watch, Rob and Frank Welker and Tress and all these amazing voice actors. Yeah. I watch them work. And then my job also was to write the ADR. When we'd get the footage back and it didn't work, or if something didn't work, I had to, I had to write some new dialogue,
like punch up stuff to to fix things,
or whatever. So I learned so much over those years of watching them do ADR, watching how I didn't even know what ADR was. I'm like, so why are they? So there are those, and then it goes beep, but then I don't understand any of this. What do you guys do? And just watching their professionalism and just hanging out with these first-rate voice actors. Yeah. And then, but sometimes it'd be like, all right, you put Rugg, you go in there, you go do Man 3. Yeah. Okay. Will there be anybody else there then when I do it as well, or can
just we do go in and do Man 3? All right. We need someone to be Man 3. I've already got Maurice on 5 characters. Do Man 3. Oh.
So that's how it did. And then when we were developing Freakazoid, we were behind. There was all kinds of trouble. There was all kinds of trouble with the show. We don't know what's happening, and we were auditioning people, and I was one of the writers, and we had no idea what to tell anybody. It's like, yeah, he's sort of like this, and we confused a bunch of actors. And finally, Tom Ruger goes, go in the room and just do it real quick, because we need to send Steven something tomorrow. Get in the room! And so I sort of went in there, and then they let me be Freakazoid. So, yeah, I mean, it was great. Yeah. It was great.
That's fantastic.
It's fun.
So, I mean, what's fascinating to me about the trajectory of what you've done is how intrinsically tied your writing career is to your voiceover career, and how they both inform each other.
Oh, yeah.
How have you found being a voice actor on these shows and consequent shows, and you've done tons of work. How has that informed your writing work?
Well, I tell you, I think it's informed more of my voice work, because I know going in what a bunch of other voice actors don't know, which is I know how much pain and effort there is in that line. Do you know what I mean? I mean, who knows? In fact, whenever I get a script, I always look at the bottom and it'll say like RV 5 or 6. And that means that when you get the script, that's gone through 5 revisions. And sometimes you'll see the little asterisk next to a line. And that means up until the last minute, up until probably the night before, that was a different line. So I know how much angst and how much anxiety. I mean, truly, there is so much work that goes into that goes into writing something. So when I go in, I'm like, whatever you want, if that's the line. And when you look at the people sitting on the couch, the producers, the writers, they just want you to bring it to life. They want you to, they want you to hear it like they heard it. And so really, I think I'm really attuned to the fact that the writer and the producer, they have a certain way they want to hear that. And if they have to say, this is how, a lot of actors are like, never give me a line reading. I'll do it my way.
Right.
And which is horrible because the people that wrote it, the producer, they hear it, right? And they just want to give you the line.
Yeah.
This is how to do the line. And so I'm like, whatever, give me the line.
Yeah.
I'm here for you.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so, I've never actually heard an actor that doesn't want a line reading, but I've heard that there are others out there that don't give me that line reading.
I've encountered that, or people have said in different contexts, if someone tries to give you a line reading or tell you how to do it, or even the celebrities at their worst outtakes that we've heard, of people going, don't tell me how to read my lines.
Right.
But it's if you're willing as an actor to do all this research and read all of this breakdowns and specs and look at the photograph they've given you and do your research on the Norwegian dialect and what region of Norwegian are they looking for?
Right.
And then to go into a room and then the person who's been working with it for 3-4 months goes, we really want you to go up on fjord.
Right.
And your reaction to this helpful piece of information is, don't tell me how to do my job.
Right. Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, you are there to bring someone's vision to life.
Yes.
I mean, that's honestly what you're there for. So, I sometimes I look at people and I know they've been up all night, sometimes before record trying to get this thing into shape. And so really your job is to just go, have fun with it, bring your thing and give them options and just have a good time with it. So
that's awesome. That's great.
So there's my little piece of advice, Kiff.
That's a wonderful piece of advice.
Thank you.
So I put a bookmark somewhere and I forgot where I put it. I forgot the dog air.
My first car?
No. Was it? What was your first car?
It was a Pacer, but I don't want to go into that.
My mom drove it off the lot and it lost a bolt, like something important as she was driving it off the lot of the new car, and my dad was like, "Well, that happens all the time." All right, anyway, I don't know, but it was something brilliant.
I feel like.
Do you want to start over?
No, I don't.
Are you sure?
I don't. Okay. What was for the listening audience? I never said this, but we met doing voiceover improv.
Yes.
And I believe that voiceover improv thing .blogspot.org is still.
I think it is. You know what? I'm terrible because I haven't. It's just all right. So this is another one of those things where my thought about just doing something 'cause.
Yes.
So my idea was I was at a session for Kung Fu Panda once. I was doing a guest spot, and in between takes, you had Fred Tatasciore, and then Kevin Michael Richardson, and I think John DiMaggio were over there. And so while the producers are talking about what they're doing, John DiMaggio and Kevin Michael Richardson and Fred, they're just so going off doing this crazy stuff.
Yeah,
and I was like, what if we did something where we just didn't have scripts? So I talked to Mick Winger because I know that he sort of Mick is a very talented guy. He was Poe on Kung Fu Panda. Yeah. And I said, would you help me get a group of people together and let's just meet on a Wednesday night or whatever, and we'll turn on microphones and we'll just do improv.
Yeah.
And so I think our first night we had Rob Paulson and Corey Burton and it was insane. And so my thought was, and then we brought you, and I think you came in within the first month anyway.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize I'd come in that early.
I think. And the idea was always, let's just play around microphones.
Yeah.
For no good reason.
For no good reason.
No good reason.
No good reason.
I don't even care if you tape it.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
I just want to get together with my friends and do some improv around microphones, and which is really hard because, as you know, we started going, wow, you really have to. You've got to make a texture. You've got to make it like a play. Like, hand me that screw.
Which screw? This one here?
Yeah. The one next to the red.
The one
chair.
next to the.
Right.
Are you talking about the Phillips head or the flat head?
No, not the one the monkey has there.
Wait,
the other one. Well, anyway, there you go. So the idea was, let's just do that, and but then, because the way we all are, you're like, whoa, we should probably do something with this. We should probably, make T-shirts or, I don't know, let's try to sell something. Right. And that's where I'm like, and of course that's true because we all do things for reasons.
Sure.
But honestly, who cares? I don't care. I just want to get there with my friends and do voiceover improv. So we would record them and then sort of put them up. And then we did live shows. Yeah. And, very highly produced. Here it is and stuff.
Music and
things, which is great.
Guests. It was marvelous.
Yes, we had guests. And so, but then here's the problem is that since we're all sort of working people and we actually have lives, it's sometimes when 6 o'clock comes on a Wednesday and you're like, wow, I really would love to go do that in Sherman Oaks, but I can't feel my eyes. I'm so tired. And then, and then people start going, yeah, listen, I have an early call tomorrow. I really can't make it.
Right.
But, and you'll back me up on this, when you did push through, being as tired as you were, but you did show up, it was always a great time.
It was always a great time. Right. And a place to just go and make mistakes offline. And I think that was the most appealing part to me was twofold. One was to go to a place where we could just do great and horrible things and just suck and suck in front of each other.
Yeah. Right.
And not like have to go through the callback experience that I just remember where the book was. But also, to play with friends because this stuff, the trajectory of my career has been, I haven't done an ensemble cartoon. So everything I've done for the most part in a booth, aside from a group read, which is usually 2 people auditioning or a spot for Total Wine and More, for example, is so isolating and solo. You know what I mean? Either at ISDN or wherever. So the opportunity to be with other like-minded, energetic people and to play and not have to go to Hollywood to Second City at 10:30 at night on a weeknight and go put up a live show for an audience of folks who I adore and I love, and they're all in their 20s and I'm in my 40s and I don't want to do that. I want to play either Just Cause 3 or work on my website or plug my daughter in and have an apple.
Yes. No, true. And so when you get together with like-minded people who are like, look, I really want to be there at 9:30, okay? Yeah. Everyone, we're done at 9:30, right?
Right, we're done at 9:30.
We're not going to Snookers after this.
We're done at 9:30, but we could get one more in. Right. It's 9:27. We have time for one more. Everybody in the room. 10-minute sketch.
But the other great thing is that these are people like, Fred and yourself and Corey Burton and stuff that pretty much their voiceover work is very specific to doing a certain thing. Like that is your character and you'll always do that, but voiceover improv lets you just sort of exercise all muscles at the same time.
Yes.
To be crazy, to try that voice that they never let you do at that session or to do that. And that is, I think, when we're doing that was just the best. And we will bring it back again when everyone has had a nice nap.
Yes.
Yes. And I think if we do it again this time, we will simply say, here's our show. We're not going to be like all big fancy and just, if you want to stream it and listen to it, here it is, warts and all, because that's what's fun.
That's the process and the truth of it. And I think, too, that as someone who's interested in it, and if I was still if I was, I don't know, living in Tulsa or North Carolina or wherever, kind of interested in this work, I would be way more fascinated, not in the finished product, but in the process.
Yeah.
I think that's where people are very interested. And I know, like, We just watched Spectre, the James Bond movie, Spectre on Blu-ray. I spent more time watching the supplementals to see how they made that opening sequence, how many extras, the beautiful artwork involved in the creation of the process and all that stuff.
My family mocks me to this day because I think the making of Lord of the Rings, the 8 hours that you get, is almost better than the movie. And I love the movie, but I am addicted to going, well, wait a minute. So what? They did what? I love that stuff.
I do too. I feel like sometimes I'll watch a mediocre film and then watch the supplementals and have such a different appreciation for what those guys did and be like, you know what? That's on the editor. The editor really ruined that picture. If you recut that footage, it would have been really dynamic. Or if they got more close-ups, like that opening shot from, did you see Spectre, the last James Bond? The opening picture is, the opening sequence of the film is during Day of the Dead. And they had 1,000 extras with their faces all painted differently, and it looked stunning.
Wow.
And it was really, really dynamic. So I'm 100% in agreement. I'll watch all 8 hours of those supplementals on each of those discs.
One of the coolest things you can get, and I think you can find it on YouTube, although I have it. It was on the Stanley Kubrick collection, the DVD. It's a documentary his daughter made during The Shining. And it's behind-the-scenes footage of Stanley Kubrick directing Shelley Duvall and Jack Nicholson. And it is amazing because I'm a Kubrick nut. And just to see him like, wow, look, he's walking on the floor. He's putting one foot in front of the other. That's Stanley Kubrick walking. That's amazing. You know what I mean? I get, but to sort of see his process and to hear his voice and sort of see him do it is amazing.
What's your favorite top of the mountain Kubrick movie? I know that's a hard thing to put if you're a fan of someone. I feel the same way about Kubrick, but also Hitchcock.
2001 is my favorite. Because I saw it when I was 8 years old at the Cinerama Dome, and my parents were like, this is, I think we should go because this is boring. And I was sitting there going, look at the monkey! Look at the spaceship! I can't believe this! This is the most amazing thing! I mean, it was the most amazing thing I've ever seen, and I didn't understand any of it. And I think I've seen it 1 million times, but then after that it would have to be Dr. Strangelove, and after that it would be Paths of Glory.
Yes.
Barry Lyndon was on the other night on Turner Classic Movies, and I told my wife, I go, you got to watch this with me, and it's a bit tedious.
It's
a little, but
the way that film,
everything is shot, it's perfect. Everything is centered. The lighting is done. It's all natural light. Anyway. It's just stunning. And so I am a Kubrick, I love Kubrick.
I do too.
I'm crazy about it.
My wife and I, our first picture that we saw together was Eyes Wide Shut. And we saw it in Traverse City, and that film, it's so controversial, but perfect and brilliant. I love that film.
Yeah, I have no complaints about that movie.
So I dropped a bookmark, and I want to come back to that.
Yes.
And it's in specifically in that callback. I think of in that mental space where do you audition mostly at home, just out of curiosity?
Yeah.
So and in that space you feel very like you're able to.
Well, yeah. All right. So when I get an audition, first of all, I imagine people like you and Kevin Michael Richardson and Jeff Bennett and Fred Tatasciore doing the same audition, right? And I'm like, there's no reason for me to do this audition. I mean, I honestly make a judgment call.
Same way all the time.
Because because it's, you know what, I've got nothing to bring this. So the first thing I'll do is I'll go, do I even do this? Which is probably a horrible thing, but it's something I do. I'm like, this is just, there are so many other people that are going to do this one better, which is a horrible thing to say, to sort of cut yourself short. But I think it's also knowing yourself. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
And I was like, I'm just not gonna, because also when I go in, the closet with the clothes in it, which is what I call my audio booth.
Yes.
Which is just a bunch of clothes.
That's funny. I got the same kind.
Yeah.
I bought from
really?
George Whittam came and installed all the clothes into our closet.
But it works perfectly. Because some people go, yeah, I've got this booth. I hired a guy, and you're like, why? Just bring a microphone in your closet with clothes. It's the same.
It's the same.
For
your audition in particular.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's fine. So that's first thing. Don't, just a microphone, and no one's looking for this to be perfect.
Right.
But anyway, but normally when I talk myself out, I'll think, well, you know what? Maybe what I'll do is I'll try something that's just totally not what they're asking for.
Yes.
Which is, I think, I'll talk myself back into it. Oh, maybe you should try it if the air was sucked out of the room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll just try anything.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, it's not what they want, and they do want exactly what they want. what they said they wanted. Like, we're looking for a middle-aged man to say the word yellow. And you've said blue in a high-pitched baby voice. But 1 time out of the 100, they will say, well, that was different. Let's bring that Paul in. And then I'll go in for the callback, and I'll be like, well, they brought me back in. They must really want to hear that the way I did it. And they go, we brought you in, so listen. Don't do what you did before. Go back to what we wanted. And then they'll discover that the way I was going to do it is terrible. And they'll go, well, thank you very much. Because you always know you're in trouble when you go in for a callback and they have you do it once. And then they say, well, that was pretty good. Thank you. Thank you.
Really? Do you want to talk about, do you want my measurements or anything? Or should we talk about the fitting? Or I don't want to.
Well, this is animation, so we don't need a fitting.
Oh, all right then. All right. Well, then I'll just, because I could do it again.
No. I think we, there's no point in trying to top perfection.
Yes. So, but you always know when they're like, when they have you do it 5 times, or you hear the person in there before you, and you hear, oh, that's great, Maynard. Let's do it this way. And then you go in, and they're like, well, thank you. Why don't you? Thank you for that take. We didn't even get all the way through it, but thank you. But anyway,
right.
So what I've learned is I don't know. Just go do what you do. And anyway,
there is no rule of thumb.
No,
because sometimes the ones we had a chair. We had this brown recliner when we were in Cleveland, and then we moved and we threw that chair away because it was broken. And our bit, both Sherry and I, our bits were we'd come back from an audition and be like, well, if I get that, I'm going to go find that chair and take a crap in it because that makes more sense than me getting that job. And most of the time when I've said something along those lines, I've needed to go find that chair.
Wow, there you go.
And it reinforces in me that I don't know.
No.
And I might have been early in their running order of guys and might have been exactly what they were looking for, but didn't think that I was exactly what they were looking for, right, or that their list of guys was not a very good list of guys.
True. Yeah. I'm doing a show now at Nickelodeon called Pig Goat Banana Cricket, and I guess they'd gone through quite a few crickets before I got there. So when I got there, I was like the 5th cricket or whatever, and I'm like, well, they can't be like him. This is terrible. I just know I'm gonna be they're gonna have a 6th cricket, and I just know. And you know that pain where you're like you're not quite you got the gig, but you're not quite sure if you're doing what they want.
100%. That feeling is such a strange feeling and palpable.
Yeah, and you're like, I just anything but doing this right now. Should I tell them that I forgot I had an appointment, or what? You just want to get out of there.
Right.
And that's always the way it is at the beginning. Mm. But I tell you, then, 5 crickets in or 6 episodes in, you start you start, wait, am I possibly having a good time? Am I actually, because you find the characters and you find what you're doing, and then you're bringing stuff to them that they never saw, and then all of a sudden they're writing to that, and then all of a sudden, you're all this team, and the next thing you know, wow, you can't wait for a session. And that's why it's sort of good to be on a series sometimes, because you can sort of get to that point where I can't wait to do that character.
Yeah.
Where sometimes if you're just doing that one thing, just for one time, you're just, I don't know, what are we doing? That's terrible. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's like, anyway, I don't know what brought that up. But
no, I totally agree. I certainly felt that way on Richie Rich, when we were doing that show.
Right,
that sense of, I don't know that I'm giving them what they want, and I'm not making the cameramen laugh today. The cameramen weren't laughing at our kids show. At our kids show. Our demographic is 12-year-old girls. And these 40, 50, 60-year-old cameramen are not laughing at the bits that I'm doing, at my big over-the-top comedy. I'm a terrible comedian. I always used to say to myself that it's my job to make anybody laugh. But then you do find that place of, oh my God, they're connected to what I'm doing, and the writers are writing for what I'm doing. Or then you see the pilot after being halfway through the season and go, holy crap.
Well, that's nothing like what we are doing now.
Nothing like, right. We're so much different.
Well, that's why pilots are, and I've been on that side of it too. The latter half of my career, I was hired to develop pilots for. I developed the Penguins of Madagascar for Nickelodeon, and I just did the sort of like what could the show be, and it's really hard work, but you just throw a lot of stuff at the wall and go, well, his catchphrase is never tomorrow, you see, and then you just write a bunch of stuff that is meaningless. But executives need a bunch of, they need like 30 pages of stuff to see. Oh, I see. So he skips on every third. He skips quite a bit, and we have a whole thing of catchphrase. But you don't know. You're just sort of right. So when you do a pilot, it's filled with all of this stuff that is not true. Like, well, he lisps. All right. I have to clarify the way the character goes. And that's why pilots are just, they're horrible, because you're guessing, right?
Yeah.
But then in that very rare circumstance that a pilot then gets picked up and goes to series. And you're right. It's nothing like where you're going.
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't know. You're just making it up.
Making it up.
Yeah.
I had no idea. And it was the gospel. But I told a lot of folks when watching Richie Rich as they would tune in. And I thought the pilot was super fun. But once the show hit, I was like, oh, man, once you get through the pilot, you know what I mean? Then we really start to take off. But, watch it for exposition purposes. And rated high.
Right.
And, just because of the social media aspect, it used to be that the advertisers get to tell you that you either sucked or you don't.
Right.
But now, everybody and their brother is like, this is horrible. This is an affront.
Yeah.
I watched 30 seconds and it's terrible.
It's terrible. What were they thinking? Oh. I could do better in my basement. This is terrible. Why are people making this? In my humble opinion. Yeah. No way. We had. Yeah. I've had my share of those. But yeah. I mean, you just keep. I will tell you this though. In all of my experience, writing and doing voice acting is so much more fun. Do you know what I mean? Because you show up, you work for 4 hours, you're with friends, you laugh, you do the work, but the people that are making the show, they are living that, 12 hours a day. And I was one of those people, and it is all consuming, and I used to, when I was on that side of the glass, I used to look forward to, recording day, because that's when we're always going to come to life and stuff.
Yes.
But it's hard. It's hard work. These shows are hard to make, and there are choices that producers and writers are making all the time, and for reasons that have nothing to do with anything. It's just stuff. And anyway.
I feel like having that production background and that appreciation and understanding for what producers and the writers and everybody involved has to go through does so much to not only inform choices that I make as an actor, blah, 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 blah. I don't even think it has anything to do with me as an actor. I think me as a person appreciating what these guys are doing.
Yeah.
You know, and then it informs how I should behave. Not necessarily perform, but how I should treat them and how I should view myself.
Right.
Even though I'm the puppet on the hand, I'm just the fabric on the hand.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. No.
And,
True.
And I love being able to step into that space and to be that for those people and fight for them in that way.
Yeah, and you know the other thing to remember is that you're a little piece of that. There was a guy that animated that, or that chose what the poses were, that chose what the never get too cocky as a voice actor, because you're nothing without good posing and good writing and good animation and great music and great timing. I mean, it's a huge team, right?
Yeah.
And so, I've always, you just sort of do it and geez, I hope they animate that well, because that could be so good, because there are so many things dependent on that. So it's a huge, there are many people responsible for that one voice you're doing. So,
wow, that's, it's amazing. It's humbling.
Yeah.
You know? And that you get to create this thing and create the emotions that inform how someone is going to spend hours animating that thing.
Yeah.
Oh, man. How did you come to puppetry?
After Freakazoid, Jim Henson Company wanted to know if I had any ideas for silly shows or something. So I wrote a pilot for them called Robot Dog. That they really liked. It never actually went anywhere, although, there was, blah, 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 right? Blah, blah, blah. But they always remembered that, they always remembered me. And then when Brian Henson started doing Puppet Up, or started saying, hey, I want to shake things up. I want my puppeteers to start feeling excited again about stuff. So they started this improv group, which started the same way, voiceover improv thing, for no good reason.
That's how Puppet Up began?
Yeah, for no good reason. Brian was like, I want puppeteers to come and do improv with puppets. And so I hired Patrick Bristow to sort of get him in shape. And within 3 weeks, they sort of brought me on. They were like, hey, you've done improv before. Why don't you, whatever. So I showed up, and in the screening room is Victor Yarrett, one of the most amazing puppeteers. Alan Troutman, one of the most amazing puppeteers. Drew Massey, one of the most amazing puppeteers. Julianne Bouchard, one of the most amazing puppeteers. And all the and Bill Beretta, an amazing puppeteer. It's like all these guys are like, they are like the Magnificent Seven of puppeteers in the world.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I'm sitting there going, what the heck am I doing here? And it was sort of like, takes me back to the days of voiceover. It's like, I don't really want to get up. I was like, all right, Paul, get up there and let's have you do something. I'm like, what do you want me to do? It's like, well, grab a puppet and put it up and let's do something funny. And I'm like, well, geez, I think I have to go home. It's the same old thing, right? And so I was like, what? And so there were 30 puppets that would just be on tables there. And, they would bring, and I was like, well, what looks, and there was a penguin. There was literally just a penguin with a mouth, right? It's got nothing. So I grabbed that, and I didn't even know how to do it. It's like, so where do I look? And we'll just put it up in one of the cameras. That's one thing. Back then, they weren't like, this is how you do it. It's just like, do it. And you're like, okay. And so I just put my hand up and I started doing it, and they laughed, and they couldn't have been more gracious and nice. And then they said, hey, why don't you come back next week?
Wow.
And then I came back, and I think we did that for 6 months, just showing up on Wednesdays, doing it. And then Brian was like, geez, I think we should do this for people.
Wow.
And it was like, well, where? Well, we'll do it here on the stage. So there was an invited audience. We did it on the stage. It was Bill Beretta and all these people, and it was a blast. It was just a blast. And then we took it to Aspen and Australia and Scotland, and it was really fun.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
What a gas.
Yeah.
What a gas.
Those I honestly, and I tell this to people, puppeteers are the best actors I know because they're physical. They're not even, and they're making you believe things about the puppet that aren't true, like that the puppet just blinked, that that the puppet is sneering. Do you know? I mean, a lot of these puppets are they're dead, right? So there's no expression, right?
Yeah.
But the puppeteer has made you believe through skillful manipulation and or the voice they're doing, they're tying all that together. I mean, it fascinated me when I'm like, wow, this is because I really believed you were angry, but it's the same expression. And so, so it's like Julianne, Alan Troutman, Drew Massey, Victor Yared. These guys are amazing actors.
Amazing actors.
Yeah, amazing actors.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Do you write still now? Do you do much writing, even for yourself, or do you do less of that? Or?
No, I was I think 2 years ago I was hired to develop something for DreamWorks, and it got picked up, and we were like a couple shows into a series. And I live all the way in Ventura, and so I would commute from Ventura all the way to Glendale, and I do that every day. And I remember I was in Fillmore, California, on my commute there, and somewhere in Fillmore, a specific street, it just occurred to me that I was going to quit that day. I mean, I was literally done. I was like, I'm done. I love everyone there. It's a great show, but I've been doing this for so long. I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
So I drove in and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. They're like, really? I go, yeah, I do. I'd rather not do this anymore. And they go, well, and I go, yeah, so let's just not do this anymore. And I was like, and that was it. And people have offered to have me, would you help us out? And I generally don't because it's hard work.
Yes.
And it's painful. And if you're like me, every line I agonize over. Now, wait a minute. He could say it like this. Mm-hmm. Or something could come in from the sky and take it. No. All right. Well, those are two options. And then, 3 hours gone by and I have 40 options. And all right. And that's just the way my writing's always been. I was like just sort of thinking about it. Mm-hmm. And after you do that for 25 years, you just start going, I don't know. I just don't want to do that today.
Yeah.
So anyway.
I understand that. I had produced enough, not to this extent, but producing is one of the most exhausting things. Oh,
yeah.
And I'd produced industrial video for 3-4 years and shepherded these projects from prying scripts out of engineers to making them burned onto Laserdisc in some company, and then started performing. And, still create a show, but direct a show here or there. But then I remember some woman had contracted me to put together a yoga DVD. And I had edited the yoga DVD. And then I got a phone call and an email with changes, and I lost my mind. I couldn't believe that I was having the reaction to this silly little yoga video. And she paid me. It was simple, but it was like, maybe it'd be nice if during this, these sort of editorial changes.
And you're like, no,
I won't do it. What I did is the right thing. How can you possibly have a problem with the way that I shot? Cut your yoga video in iMovie. And it was the stupidest tantrum that I've ever thrown in my life. And I'm staying there freaking out in this loft apartment in Cleveland. But I made that moment. At that moment, I was like, I told Sherry, she's sitting there in that brown chair. And I said, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And it's such that moment is... It's a palpable, terrifying, but freeing moment.
Yeah. I remember the moment I made that decision. I went in. I remember that. So I'm driving back through Fillmore on the way home. And I'm like, oh, this is where I decided to not do that anymore. I love this town. And then I saw the Mikado at Thomas Aquinas College that night with my wife and daughter. And I was like, oh, this is the best. This is the best production of the Mikado I've ever seen with 19-year-old people. This is amazing. Oh, my. And it was just like, I felt so free and so like, I don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
I don't have to do that anymore. And, So, but 10 years ago, I was fine. Yeah, that was, I will do that.
Sure.
But then I think with all things, you probably reach a limit where you're like, I don't want to do that anymore. You can't make me.
Yeah. And I finally, I'm learning still to be at peace with that decision.
Yeah.
I'm someone who likes to produce things. I love to, like, this show is an example of that.
Well, you're touching every button here, and it's amazing.
I just keep touching it, but I'm touching it lightly so it doesn't change a setting. But you know what I mean? Like, I do feel compelled to create things, but then there's also that time of, like, I don't want all that responsibility, pressure, etc. I just want to enjoy life.
Yeah.
Why can't I just be hired and then walk away?
Yeah, well, you know what? I had friends that while I was writing Animaniacs, and you know, I would get in early in the morning, but I would leave at 4 or 5. You know, it was like an 8-hour, 9-hour day. That were like, hey, you should come join us. You know, we're doing that sitcom at NBC, and I'm like, well, really? Tell me about that. Well, we get in at 10. And we leave at 2 in the morning. Really? Really? Yeah. Sometimes at 4, we're punching up jokes. In the afternoon, in the morning. I'm like, what? Really? Well, but do you ever see your family? Oh, we see them on Sundays. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what? Nothing in the world would... It sounded horrible to me. And I know they're making a lot of money. But I don't think I could do that.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I think that I could have done that if I was single.
Yeah.
And didn't have a child who I wanted to spend time with.
Right.
And I may be able to do that when the child doesn't want to spend time with me. And they'll be like, oh, okay, you're busy doing all of that high school stuff. That's great. I still like spending time with my wife.
Right.
So if I'm able, and there is that freedom of being able to live at home, and I've been recording and sending in more from home so that I can go for a walk or have lunch with my wife, which is paradise. And I may not be bringing in as much money as I would love to be able to do so I could have all the things, but then you don't have time to enjoy all the cool things.
No, you know, I mean, there's balance in life and you know, but anyway, but no, you know, things aren't just, it's not that big a deal. I mean, do you know what I mean? It's like, okay, let's just, it's not, well, someone would say it's not called show fun, but it should be sort of fun. Yeah. And when it's not, then you shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I think this industry is large enough and supports enough things, and there's enough variety within it for you to be able to find a place that you fit nicely and that your skill set can really be utilized to its best. Right. And I know that if I have a headache every night at the end of trying to crank out, even if it's a great joke, is it worth feeling that way? What am I, you know, you kind of have that feeling of what am I really doing this for? Mm-hmm. You know, other than to, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would literally, when I would be writing sometimes, I would be just agonizing and which is good. I'm not saying agonizing isn't good. So don't, you know, it's like, it is good. There are moments where you need to agonize or something. If you care about it, you need to make it good.
Yes.
But there's some point at which, after having done a lot of that, you go, I don't want to agonize about that specific thing anymore.
Yeah.
But I did. So it's like, you know, everyone has to work hard and you know, you got to do what you got to do, and there will be pain, everything, you know, there's pain involved in anything that is successful and stuff. But at some point when you reach, you know, an elderly age, you just want to have ice cream.
You've earned the ice cream.
I want ice cream.
That's right.
Yes.
Well, it's time for ice cream.
All right.
I think we should have ice cream right now.
All right, let's have ice cream.
But before we go and adjourn ourselves to ice cream, what can people find your work on now? Where can people track you and
on
find
Nickelodeon, Pig Goat Banana Cricket. I am Cricket, and on Netflix, Puss in Boots with the wonderful and talented Eric Bauza.
Yes,
who's amazing and just insanely and disgustingly talented.
Oh my God! Yeah,
and I am Artifius on that, and then a show called The 7D on Disney, and
nothing else at the moment. But I'm hoping that'll change by 5 o'clock this afternoon.
That's right.
When I have a call back.
You have a call back this afternoon?
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. Not.
Yes. Well, I think you will be wonderful. Go in there and don't do what you did originally.
All right, good.
And can people find you on social media? Are you on social media?
Not really. I don't
really
do that, but I should. But I will. You can tweet or find me anywhere you want.
I'll tell you what. If you hashtag Paul Rugg, that's PAULRUGG, hashtag, but email it or tweet it to @AllOverVO.
There you go.
Then I will reach out to Paul on your behalf and make certain that he gets the message.
I have no idea what any of that just meant, but you're going to figure that out.
We'll explain it over ice cream.
Woo!
Dude, thank you so much for coming
in.
It's been so much fun. We'll be back next week with more things. In the meantime, here's some music. Let me hit play. This has been All Over Voiceover with Kiff VH. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please go to iTunes and give us a positive rating. It truly helps. Follow me on Twitter @KiffVH or on Instagram @KiffVH or on Vero @KiffVH. Thanks so much for listening. Talk to you soon. Claim victory and depart the field.
Werewolf? Yeah.